Let's get it going. Oh, there we go. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Talking Niagara this morning. And he's nearly early.
Nearly early, which means I'm just a little late.
Yeah, well, there you go.
It's all relative, basically.
All relative. Yeah, well, good morning, everybody. Talking Niagara is out here welcoming you to your brand new day on, was it May the 14th? All right, so
May 14th.
yeah, May 14th. Yeah. So yeah, less than 6 months now till my birthday. You know,
Less than 6 months. Less than 6 months before your birthday.
Yeah, less than 6 months to my birthday. Jim Diodati, you better be paying attention. I'm expecting.
We got to do that flag
I'm
thing again. We got to put Peter's flag up there, and we got to get a little certificate.
Yeah, exactly. I need a good present. Yeah, I deserve a good present. Let's put it that way. You know.
Now you just have to.
I mean, look at all the nice things we've ever said about Jim Diodati in the city of Niagara Falls.
Well, that's a good point.
How many of them are there?
There's a fair amount.
One, maybe two.
Yeah.
No, it's easy to be cynical, and I know the mayor knows that. Hey, we're out here to criticize him because it's necessary.
Yes, well, and you bring up a good point there, but I think sort of attacking the individual councilors and other politicians anywhere, even JT, in the way that we really snub his character and all that and get angry and stuff, I think that's the wrong way to go. I think we have to be more objective, just plain objective. If you don't like, if you're questioning Jim Diodati's policies or something, then you question the policy. You don't ride up on the guy. If he gets caught with a big bundle of money from a payoff or something, I mean, that's not just Jim Diodati, but any politician. Then you could sort of come down and say, okay, that's no good.
Well, that's because they've broken the rule. In that scenario that you just suggested, and that I'm not suggesting that our mayor is anyway that way, but then that would be about an individual that has broken the rules.
Yeah, I'm saying that when we talk about the politicians these days, we should get a little bit more dispassionate, because what's happening is we're getting all emotional about each different politician, and yet we are not standing in their footsteps. When we're not there. If they and most of the criticism that most of us have is before we look into it a little more deeply. And I think probably a more dispassionate, just to go on about Mike Strange saying, like I used to say that Mike Strange knows the word awesome, but not much more. But these changes, it's taken a long time, but he's becoming a little bit more savvy in that share. But what business is it mine? He was elected by the other electors. Yeah. So if he's got a policy, we analyze the policy. We don't analyze the guy.
Yeah,
if it can be avoided.
Yeah, and exactly. And if he doesn't vote for something, you see, if he doesn't vote for something we support, then we can criticize him.
Yeah, we can wonder why. It was, but we got to stay away from smearing character and stuff. But we don't really do that a whole lot. We get frustrated and stuff like that. We might get a little insulting.
Well, again, here's the thing. Here's the thing. If there's a new development coming, it's like it's fair comment that you can kind of like it. You can think, hell, this is best thing since sliced bread, perfect for this area. I look at it and I go, what a heap of shit. Excuse my language, but you know what I mean? We can be entirely different on it. We can both be objective, right? But yet that's just the way it is. That's just the way it is, right?
Yeah. Anyway, new battery plant in port. Someone doing something right to get industry. Yeah, that if a new battery plant's going into Port Colborne, hoorah! But I wonder if it has something to do with the fact that the canal's right there, because these batteries are very, very. If you're going to be, if it's a place that produces batteries, it's going to need heavy elements to make it. It's going to, and the end product's going to be heavy. Maybe the fact that the canal is right there. Maybe it's, some of these elements can be supplied, or the finished product can be taken away.
Yep,
right there in the ships. Right.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, so they've announced the summer road closures for Niagara. Oh my God, this is a massive list. Honestly, what road isn't being closed? You know, because it's like, so they're closing my main road to work. They're closing my second choice road to work. And they haven't done the third choice road. But hey, that's bad. Who the hell do they think they are? Why don't they come ask me, which, you know, if I close this road, what other knock-on effect is it going to have?
Or trade your car in for 3 drones and then fly yourself to work.
Ah, interesting thought. 3 drones. Why 3?
Because you probably need at least 3. I don't think they make one. Well, maybe they make one big enough to carry you, but you might want a little bit of a backup. Don't forget the parachute. and it might rumple your suit, so you know.
That's all right.
Keep an extra blazer in the office.
I've got a suit at work anyway. I always keep a suit at work.
Yeah. So there you go. And then you just
that's the thing. That's the thing about my job, is I have to keep a suit at work. I've thought about keeping a shirt at work. Every once in a while, what happens is somebody comes up and says, "Oh, you're needed in court now." Yeah. Doesn't happen very often, but it does happen. Anyway, so where we got problems at Thoroldstone Road between May 12th and 13th, up till May 17th. We got problems at Thoroldstone Road, both directions. We've got QEW between at Glendale, between Glendale and Welland Avenue, Toronto bound. 2 lanes closed from May 14th at 11 p.m. till May 17th at 6 a.m. You've got QEW at Garden City Skyway with alternate lane closures between 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. You've got QEW Toronto bound at Maple Avenue and Casablanca in Grimsby. Alternate lanes May 6th till June 8th between 7 p.m. and 6 a.m. Highway 405. Now this one, they're saying westbound Stanley Avenue to Queen Elizabeth Way, Niagara, alternating 1 lane from April 10th until December 20th. No. Absolutely no. This is 100% closed, ladies and gentlemen. 100% closed between Stanley and QEW. And is likely, and they're saying till December 20th, likely even longer.
Yeah, what are they doing?
It looks well on the basis of, and the other way, by the way, likely to also be, there's alternate lane closures. So there's 1 lane open, 405 eastbound. What they seem to be doing is, I think they're adding another lane. Either that, or some time ago, there was a question asked by the city council about can we get a eastbound 405 to southbound QEW interchange.
Yeah, that seems to be an odd one that should be there but isn't.
Yeah, and I suspect that some of the work they're doing, and I'm not saying that they're putting that in, I suspect that some of the work they're doing is preparing for that.
That would be pretty big, given how the road is shaped there, to go southbound from the 405. And then you wonder why it was never there in the first place.
I do wonder why it was never there in the first place.
When you go off to Toronto, we can't go.
See, I suspect what's going to happen, it's going to be one of these lanes where 2 lanes continue right and 1 lane goes left.
Possibly, yeah. Possibly.
Yeah. And that's,
but it just didn't seem.
But it's not.
It seemed to be very odd that it was built that way in the first place.
Yeah. And I think that they're just basically updating those roads in order to make that happen in the future. But I don't think that'll happen this year. You got a number
that was the best place to check how fast your car could go, because for years they never had a cop on that stretch of the 405 from the bridge to the highway.
You mean when you mean when you went to the dealership and you were trying the new car, you take it up that way, blast it down that 405, and then get off the Glendale and come back again,
or just to test the metal of your own car. I never get I had a 318 and I could not hit that 100 mark. 98 is as fast as I could go of miles per hour, right?
Yeah.
So I get it there, and
funnily enough, I never do that. That's my normal way to work. Never do it. But there's cops there now anyway.
Well, yeah, and all that other stuff. But I mean, you don't have that much testosterone as much as you did when you're 20, 21 years old, man. I mean, you got to do it when you're 20, 21.
I guess. QEW, Glendale and Highway 405, Fort Erie bound. There's lane closures April 1st until December 21st. All right, so that's one that's coming off where the 405 hits. QEW, Fort Erie bound between Casablanca and Maple Avenue in Grimsby. 2 alternative lanes closed between May 6th and June. May 6th at 7 p.m. until June 8th at 6 a.m. All right, Highway 406, 4th Avenue to Glendale, St. Catharines. So this is southbound 4th Avenue to Glendale. Alternate lane closures between May 12th and May 17th. So that's almost over. And 406 northbound at the same point. Alternate lane closures. Or actually, East Main to Glendale, alternate lane closures. Yeah, I already experienced that one. Right, so there's a lot of it out there. Just beware. We're in construction season, right?
Yeah, I just like to point out that Metaphysical Mike Cushman was the one that tipped us off of the battery plant in Port. We'll have to learn a little bit more about that. That's interesting development for the area.
And Mike says, what road in Niagara is not crumbling? It's interesting. They put out a sign at the end of Bridge Street that says annual maintenance for Bridge Street. Annual maintenance just means that they send out Phil and Pat.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's true. But I just want to point out, though, you just don't know what you're driving over. One day I went for a walk down here on Thorstone Road, and right across from there's a little plaza there, close to the one beside the one that's but there's a little apartment. There's a Confederation Avenue, a plaza, a little apartment, another little plaza. Right in that first opening, coming westbound in that little plaza where they have substantial subs. They have a few other things in there.
Yeah, another one.
And there was a little hole just before the driveway in the asphalt on the road. And I looked at that little hole. It was only about this big. I looked at that little hole, and I could see that there was a big space under there. So, and I watched the cars going over, and I took my cane at the time, and I stuck it in there, and it was just washed out under there, like it was hollow. And then I went later. I think I got my hockey stick, and I went and I stuck it in there to see how it was just a big, like it looked like a baby sinkhole. Right. I took my hockey stick and it was right down to the blade, and I felt around, and it was just a big cavern under there. So I phoned the city, which then relayed the message to the region, and I waited for a while. A couple of weeks, they came and fixed it though. But all these cars were running over it, and it was hollow under there. And so it's just the asphalt. It was luckily it was right near the edge, where most of the weight of the car probably wasn't.
You know what it seems. Yeah, you know
and
what.
So it was going to go. It was going to go. It was going to collapse.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then you imagine driving along, and all of a sudden the road gave out on you, and you're down like this.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah. Well, I was going to say, hey, what you needed when you reported that was to come in with these kind of spray filler stuff that, expanding foam filler type thing, and it's made for the road.
I don't know what they put in there, but it came along, and then they cut out the cut out the hole to a what looks like a rectangle.
Yeah.
And imagine the only thing they could do is fill it up, because that was my whole issue. And I made it very clear to the person I was talking to, like, it's hollow under there. It's going to let go.
Yeah.
You can't have trucks and that go over the top of that. Sooner or later, it's going to collapse.
Yeah. Yeah.
And hopefully they put filler under there, but it hasn't cracked anymore. So it must have done it.
Yeah, well, I was looking at this sign in Bridge Street and thinking, well, actually, what they need to do is they need to. Well, I think that they also need to do the sewage separation stuff on Bridge, unless that was done first.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. But it's a regional road, of course. But anyway, we'll get through that. Okay, so moving on. This is a story we had yesterday. Niagara Falls has a rare 911 dispatch insofar as ambulance include nurses as part of the teams that can respond to emergencies. However, they've had fewer ambulance calls in the last little while, and there's a whole question about the ambulance service right now in Niagara. Before nurses were added, 44% of 911 calls required ambulances rushing with lights and sirens on. Now it's under 20%.
This is a good and a bad thing. I could see. We know that a lot of people just phone 911 right for a hangnail on.
Yeah,
there's a lot of ignorant people out there that think just because they got a stomach ache, there's a 911 call.
Yeah.
Now, if they can sort the call out, and if a 911 call comes in and the dispatcher can realize that this person really isn't in that much of a danger, they can switch it over to a nurse, and the nurse could then deal with the problem without sending a paramedic out there. I'll just add this at this particular time, that paramedics quite often have a lot to do with the homeless and the drug addicted people out there. I think I know at least one paramedic that really just hates the homeless and drug addicted people of the area, because they take up so much of their time, because they're always called for some incident, one or another, from somebody's a drug addict or overdosing or something like that. So that itself is a strain on the system. But mostly it's people that don't know 911. You don't have to call 911 for most of the stuff that they call it for. You only phone 911 when you have an emergency.
Yeah. Well, and actually, I think over the years, fewer and fewer people call 911. It's like you may have broken your foot because you fell off a ladder or something, and you're feeling real bad, but chances are you're going to kind of, I'm gonna get your wife to drop you down the emergency, or get your son to drop you down the emergency, or something like that, right?
So what happens when you do phone 911? Then the paramedics come in and quickly realize you're really not in that state of emergency. Yeah. So that's wasting their time. And meanwhile, there could be somebody on the roads that got in a severe accident and they need a paramedic, and you're tied up with somebody that's
it's a waste of space. Yeah,
that's just not.
And I think we're going. You see, I use the broken leg example because I think that what's happening is people are getting them, you know, they're calling a taxi, get to the hospital with their broken leg, because they consider, well, that's not an emergency, but it is.
Well, I was a couple of years ago, I was walking on down along the river, which I like to do at different spots, and a lady flipped and on her bicycle and broke her leg. So there she was lying with her leg at 90 degrees angle, like her bottom, her foot and lower part of her leg were at 90 degrees to the rest of her leg. So there was already somebody there. He had some sort of medical background, so he was able to calm her down and all that. And one of us, maybe it was me, phoned 911. But it sure took them a long time to get there. And then they finally, I think they came from St. Catharines. And so we told them where we were, and it was getting starting to get dark. So my van was right there, and I put my flashers on, and my headlights and my flashers. And when I saw I saw the paramedics coming kind of slowly down the road looking for where this person might be, and I was flashing my lights and my light my four-ways were on and all that, so they knew where to go.
Yeah.
And but it took a while. It took a while to get there, and there's one where you absolutely needed a 911 call. Meanwhile, they didn't send the fire department or everything else because whoever phoned it in was very clear. This lady's got a broken leg, right? And she needs that. So that's what they did. Yeah. So you didn't get, and a lot of 911 calls, you get the fire department, you get the police and everything. So that's another thing you can do. If you're looking for a 911 call, be very clear what it is, so you don't have to get all the other services there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. The thing about that is that people are, because of their imprecision, people are being, are wasting time often. But at that said, also we get other things. We get unneeded bureaucracy that also wastes time.
Yes.
All right. At the other end, hey, I'm calling you because at Stanley and Ferry, there's a guy with a broken leg, right? What's your name, sir? What's your telephone number? How can I? No, you don't need that.
No.
Get and sort the guy out. You know?
Yeah, definitely. And but the problem is basically what they're saying here is there's just too many people calling 911, and if they can then if the dispatcher can sort it out rather quickly that it's not an extreme emergency, then she can, if it's a health emergency, she can then direct it to a nurse who will then be able to speak to whatever the problem is the person has, and maybe save a lot of time and money without dispatching a vehicle. The problem I see is the same sort of problem that just happened to a very close friend of mine. They go to the hospital and they get misdiagnosed right in the hospital, and then 2 days later they have to have an emergency operation because they've approached the wrong doctors at the wrong time to make mistakes. It's going to be easier for a nurse to make a mistake talking to somebody over the phone. What if you're talking to somebody that doesn't know English that well?
Well, that actually leads us to the next page that we got, next story we got, which is about patients being routinely diagnosed with cancer in Canadians' emergency rooms. So we've got kind of, we're utilizing our emergency services almost as the diagnostic place when we should be looking differently at our emergency rooms and that.
Well, there's an article coming up. I don't know if you wanted to go that one next.
We can go to that one, and we can certainly go to that one. Hang on, let's put a couple of comments up here. You should know, you should get nasal spray. It will help you stop coughing so much.
That's a good idea. I think I'll try that. Yeah. I mean, I'm over COVID. I've been testing negative the last couple of days, so I know I'm over COVID, but the cough is still a nasty thing.
Yeah,
it's still hanging in there.
More people are calling on ambulances to get quicker service. Workplaces call taxi instead of an ambulance, which is wrong. But in fact, actually, the workplaces have been doing that for a long time, because in fact, there's a standard call cost for ambulances and workplaces, and they found, generally speaking, that it's quicker to actually send somebody off to the hospital in a taxi than it is to do so in an ambulance. Cheaper.
Well, I've gone off to in a taxi sometimes. Usually there's a safety guy that can at work could take you in.
Well, the safety at work guy normally is actually the one who has to stay at the hospital for the duration.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, thank you, Laurie. Thanks for the advice. More people are calling an ambulance to get quicker service. Well, yeah, taxis might be quicker, but it depends on what you got. Sorry about that. It depends on what you have. It depends on what your ailment is. I remember once I had a lot of breathing problems at a place I was working when I was 19 years old. I had huge respiratory problems. I kept falling down, and it was work. I was working a really bad job, and it wasn't really a good job. And so one guy thought I was faking it, and one guy. So I'm lying on the ground panting, right? I can't get any air, and the guy comes and says, "They're faking. They'll find out." Oh God, yeah, I'm faking. I was so angry I could have punched him right in the head. And back in those days, I might have, but I couldn't get off the ground. So finally, somebody helped me and dragged me to the office, and then they sent a cab to take me to my doctor's, not even the hospital. The hospital was closer. Yeah, no, they phoned my doctor, and then they sent me to my doctor's, and not even the hospital. It was right. It was closer to where it was.
Yeah.
So, but back in those days, there were more doctors doing sort of, I guess, call in for an emergency quick.
Well, the one here which we got is like, okay, so the next item that I've got is doctors are warning that patients are routinely being diagnosed with cancer in busy Canadian emergency rooms, and that's actually part and parcel of the same basic problem. Cancer is the worst of diagnoses, of course, and it means that people are not using the normal health services, and they're utilizing more emergency services than ever before.
Yeah, this is actually the lady there that's referred to. What's her name? I put it down someplace. She Grewal or something like that. In any case,
Grewal, yes. Yeah.
Now she's done a study, right, and she's found out that this is happening all over Canada. There's not enough doctors. There's not enough nurses. There are 2.5 million people, I think, or 2.3 million people in Canada without a doctor. That's going to accelerate to it's going to be double that very shortly in the next couple of years. More and more the people can't get medical service, don't have a doctor, and then they finally get so sick they go to the emergency. And probably turned away from the emergency a few times until they finally get somebody to seriously look at them, and they've got cancer, and it's lung and breast and prostate, and I forget and colorectal. Those are the foremost cancers. There are also kidneys coming up too, but those are the 4 cancers that they're diagnosing mostly in the hospitals now. So somebody doesn't have a doctor, they finally get some kind of medical attention in the hospital, and they're told that they have cancer, and a lot of times it's inoperable because it's got that far. What does that tell you about our healthcare system?
Yeah, exactly. The one example here, CT scan, and it's not like you can show a diagnosis like appendicitis, said this doctor. And you're thinking, you sit down with this person and it's unbelievably busy space like the emergency ward, and you're basically telling them that they've got cancer and it's already spread to all parts of the body.
Yeah, and it's already metastasized. So the doctor's Dr. Kirat Grewal, and she's actually had got some money to study this issue. And what she finds out that there's a family medical crisis. Of course, that's nothing new, but where 1 in 5 Canadians do not have a primary doctor, and that's expected to double very shortly. And these cancer diagnoses in the hospital are usually death sentences because, Lori, Parliament says, you're welcome. Talk to the pharmacist. Use a twice a day works wonders. I had a long COVID cough twice. Oh, thanks, Lori.
Yeah.
And then anyway, back to the hospitals. She points out here also that a lot of people can survive a diagnosis of cancer for up to 25 years now, but not if you have to get it diagnosed in a hospital when it's gone too far, because you haven't been able to get medical attention, or it's been too long. Or let's face it, if you go in a clinic and you got a pain in your gut, and maybe it's cancer of the colorectal cancer, and you got a pain in your gut. Well, how common is a pain in the gut?
Yeah.
Are they going to send you for a CT scan?
Yeah, a pain in the gut. A pain in the gut could be any number of things, right? Yeah, sure, it could be cancer, but it's more likely to be any number of things unless it's a consistent pain in the gut.
Yeah, and so you're going to get like a friend of mine had a pain in the gut, and they kept, and he was already in a wheelchair, so he always had to bring an ambulance to get him to the hospital. So that's what he did, and they left him in the hospital for hours and hours and hours, and looked at him and said, well, you got some kind of infection or something, or mild, and they sent him home. And then he passed out again. He fell down again, and he was weak, and he was sick, and they took him in. But I think it was the third trip that they finally looked at him, and he had his large intestine was super infected, and it was going to burst, and they had to start filling him up with as much antibiotics as they possibly can. The second strongest of the bunch. The first strongest will kill you, apparently. But they put this, and they had to sit him there for 5 or 6 days till they could get the thing under control and take out that part. It almost killed him. Yeah. And then after the operation, he almost died of dehydration because they forgot to put up an IV. It looked as if an IV was there, but it wasn't. It was a potassium drip, and they should have had an IV there as well, but they didn't, and they didn't even realize it.
Yeah.
So you take your life in your hands going to that hospital.
Oh yeah.
In any case, so like people, CT scans and things like that determine if you get cancer or not, they're not easily performed. Doctors will not. Busy doctors and nurses are not going to go give you a CT scan for every pain in your gut.
Well, that's true.
When it gets to the point where it's no longer you can't ignore it or say it's something else, then you have to have a CT scan, and by this time it's too late. You've got colorectal, lung, or breast, or some kind of cancer, and those are the 4: lung, breast, prostate, and colorectal. Those are the most common ones. And that's what they're diagnosing in the hospital. Can you imagine? I can't. And is this now? I'm going to sound like a parrot here. We let 500,000 people into the country every year, but we don't. How fast can we respond to our medical system to take in another 500,000 people? How fast? And of course, we talked about this with housing as well. How can you get as many houses built? 500,000 when you get 500,000 new people coming in. But the other thing is health. Those two things are the biggest urgencies right now. It's places for people to live and the healthcare.
Yeah.
pretty soon my doctor is already semi-retired. I don't know if I'm going to get another one.
Yeah. Yeah. You need to get another one. Absolutely you need to. Right.
Yeah. Well, where are they going to come from?
Yeah.
Am I going to be one of the 2.5 million people without a family doctor that has to go to a clinic?
Right. In the emergency ward, says Mike, there is only one doctor. Huge problem. Look at St. Catharines. Huge new facility. And that's actually what happened to me in Niagara Falls last time I went. I was there 7 hours. There's only one doctor doing everybody, and the place was absolutely packed to the rafters.
Well, that happened to my the person of which I've talked about the last few days. Went in and got a bad diagnosis from the doctor on Monday night. Yeah. Had to come back in on Tuesday, and they still thought that she was based on that diagnosis the night before. They made her wait 7 hours, and then when they finally did a CT scan 6.5 hours later, they found that her appendix had burst, which she was telling them about in the first place, and they just ignored her. And she's a nurse.
Yeah. Right. And that's part of the problem that we have here.
That is the most simplest diagnosis of all time is appendicitis. It can be a little tricky sometimes, but come on, you got a pain in your gut and your white blood cell count is up, and you got a lot of pain in your stomach, in your midsection there.
Yeah.
What else could it be? And nobody took a CT scan or anything. It just told them it was something that she ate. That was what the doctor told her on Monday night. It was something that didn't agree with her.
Yeah, and this I will agree with Mike on. There needs to be more than one doctor in an emergency ward at any time, irrespective of where that is. There needs to be at least one, at least two. I mean,
well, we don't have enough. That's the problem. We don't have enough doctors. We don't have enough nurses. And we don't, and we have, and as I said before, we have an enormous amount of people coming in on immigration that we cannot facilitate that many more people coming into the country if you don't expand your healthcare system rapidly. And that's not an easy thing to do.
That's not.
You can't train a nurse overnight. You can't train a doctor overnight.
No, exactly. And here, what used to happen years ago, I remember what used to happen with many emergency rooms. They would actually have one experienced doctor who's like probably 5 years on the job, and one doctor who was learning it, who was a resident, and one who just been qualified, etc. So you've got the doctor with experience that junior doctor could go to if he encountered something unusual. Obviously, that junior doctor can look at and go and see a broken leg and diagnose that pretty easily, but they can't. What they can't do is something more awkward. Then they need a bit more experience to back them up.
Yeah, like cancer, like we just mentioned.
Oh, now yeah, exactly.
Now, what I got a pop up here, kind of talk about timing. This pop up says, insensitive comments. Fire that minister. Ontario NDP calls on Ford to sack Minister of Health.
Yeah. I don't know that sacking Minister of Health is necessarily going to resolve that problem. Right?
Somebody has to take the fall, and they usually do sack the minister.
Yeah. That's fairly true. That's fairly true. All right. Anything else on that particular item? Any further thoughts?
Okay. Yeah, it says here the NDP is calling for Ontario Premier Doug Ford to sack his health minister over a suggestion that the province is not strong. I guess it's retrain, probably retain. It's probably supposed to be retain family doctors. Speaking to reporters on Queen's Park, NDP leader Merritt Stiles accused the government of trying to pretend there weren't issues with the province's healthcare system. Well, we can tell them that there's lots, can't we?
Yeah, and so we've got a long way to go on healthcare, and there's been a few experiments that I've been none too pleased with, I have to say, and I call them experiments because they seem to be experimenting with the healthcare system that was at one time working well.
Yes, and I don't know. Our own healthcare system down here is pretty bad. I mean, I have multiple stories here, like the last one about appendicitis appendix that burst, shouldn't have burst, should have been easily diagnosed. They screwed it up 2 days in a row, and made the person wait in pain, gripping their guts in the emergency room. Like, seriously, I was in there.
Here's another question. Somebody has often said to me, if you've got an emergency, don't go to GNGH, go to Hamilton. Right?
I hear that a lot too. Well, as a matter of fact, it worked. It exactly. I know a guy who's well, I shouldn't really say what he does, but he's very, very acquainted with the medical system anyway. His own wife had problems and needed MRI, and he knew it, but the doctor that they went to talk to in the emergency just fluffed them off and booked an MRI for months down the road. If they had taken that, she would have died before the MRI was taken.
Yeah,
and there would be nothing because they just said it was a dementia. They just fluffed it off the dementia, like rapid onset dementia. That really doesn't make much sense, does it? Maybe it does happen sometimes, but not that fast.
It isn't that routine.
So that's what he did. He just packed her up and went to Hamilton, and they got the MRI right away. And guess what? There were some serious problems in there. Well, but they would have never known it if they left it up to the doctor's share.
Yeah, I've heard of many people, both here and in St. Catharines, that have said on numerous occasions. In fact, actually, when I was working in the taxis, I actually one time was dispatched to a house for a job to Hamilton. And where to in Hamilton? Jaruzelski Hospital.
Yeah.
Right. And the point being is why Jaruzelski? I was talking to them because we just feel there's cancer. Cancer he's got pains where there would typically be cancer, right? And they felt that it was the best thing just to go to Jaruzelski because that was the cancer center in Hamilton.
Yes, I've known people who've gone there.
Yeah. I don't know. Obviously, I don't know what happened because I dropped them off and went on about my day.
Yeah, I don't know.
But you imagine that you're paying $100+ to get somebody to a hospital in Hamilton rather than go through the pain of going to Niagara. When everybody believes that most of our locals believe that Niagara, the GNGH, is in a mess, and St. Catharines.
Well, it is. Like, I've had so many incidences myself, my friends, myself, my mother, and now someone that's close to me, a relative that's close to me, young woman, who's just gone through a harrowing experience. It could have been much worse. All it was an appendix, and they missed it. They kept missing it.
Yeah.
I said it was appendix. She said it was appendix. The emergency doctor said, no, something you ate. After being there, when you got a high white blood count, right? That means you've got an infection. When you're in agony, you're bent over agony, and they say, oh, well, we shouldn't do CT scans over the top, right? Well, she had one the next day when she came in because she was in agony again, the same symptoms, made her wait another 6 hours, made her wait 8 hours the day before, made her wait 6.5 more hours before they decided to do anything. And then by the time they did, they found the appendix had burst.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely disgusting.
It's an appendix, and they messed up an appendix.
Yeah.
An ordinary, everyday appendix. They messed it up. when she was a nurse, and she said it is, and I told her it was. St. Catharines, Laura Parliament says St. Catharines Hospital has a high rate of staph infections and C. diff. Oh, great. Yeah. What is it? How come, like, our own hospital had to be scrubbed from top to bottom? I don't know if you remember the guy, Kevin Smith, his name was. He was sent by the Wynne government to clean up the Niagara Hospital. The first thing he did was fire everybody on the board, and then he brought in cleaning crews, and they cleaned it from top to bottom to get rid of the C. diff, and then they messed up, and they went back. He thought he had it done, and then I think it was CBC or CTV went in with their little ultraviolet light, and they saw all these places they were missed. So they had to do it all over again. And wash it down. People died of C. diff in there. They got it in there. They went in for other reasons, and they got C. diff.
Yeah. Well, there's one. Back in the 80s, I read this article by a research doctor who said that basically we should not be having hospitals that we shouldn't be treating people in hospitals that are older than about 30 to 50 years old.
Well, I don't know. You just don't have the resources to do that.
The reason being is it's infections like C. diff and others, and Legionnaire's disease, that are prevalent in buildings like that become problematic. And okay, so back in the day that I was reading that article, probably the majority, I wouldn't know of a hospital that was newer than 100 years old.
Well, yeah, because all it has to be is cleaned. Basically cleaned, and if it's cleaned properly, those things don't happen. I mean, finally Niagara Falls got their act together, but it took a whip from this guy called Kevin Smith. Anytime he was interviewed, he was Mr. Nice Guy. But when the CTV cameras came in and showed how many problems there were, back he had to get the whip again. He had to straighten those people out, put them all in order, get rid of whoever the board that was running it. I knew a person that got let go because they were the public relations persons, and they got rid of all that staff that ran the hospital. You know, they got rid of them all, including the PR people, which was kind of unfair, but because they had they had nothing to do with how badly the place was run. Yeah. So the thing is, you just got to keep it clean. I mean, the St. Catharines Hospital was really old. It functioned for a very long time. You didn't C. diff outbreaks were a relatively new thing, and I think it had to do with the amount of people that were in there and the cutbacks of staff. I talked to the part-time janitors at the hospital here when a friend of mine was in, and he says they get these really awkward, stupid people who want to do cutbacks, and won't give them the amount of cleaners they need, because they figure if they don't give them the cleaners, they'll use what they have more efficiently. So they've decided the cleaner should use only X amount of this cleaning fluid in their mop water, and if they don't give it to them, they'll train them to use less, and that which leaves them looking around and trying to borrow cleaning fluid from the other janitors because they can't get a tub of the detergent.
But it sounds like a case of there are standards for a reason. Anyway, let's move on. St. Catherine's self-cleaning washroom is out of order again after more vandalism. So the facility has been closed since April 22nd after city staff noticed one of the fixtures was damaged. And the Director of Engineering, Facilities and Environmental Services, Anthony Martuccio, said the city is currently waiting for replacement parts. And one of the big problems about this is that people have talked about this self-cleaning washroom and how and the location of it, and those in St. Catharines have been saying that it's not going to be it's not the right place for it. It really isn't, because there isn't the security there, even though this is right across the street from the fire station.
Well, firefighters' job is not to watch a washroom.
No, of course it isn't.
Maybe if it was closer to the police station, it might be a little bit better. If there was a police station close by, that made just by psychology. But the thing is, why is this thing being vandalized? And this is a thing that I've ran into a lot of times before. When there's something out there for the homeless, those of us who are homeless, I mean, those among us that are homeless, and those drug addicted people or street people that need a washroom, they don't have anything else, and they have a self-cleaning washroom. St. Catharines decided to use this, even though it's more expensive, but they thought it would save a lot of medical expenses. And some, can't use that word, some blankety blank goes in and vandalizes it.
Yeah.
Why are they vandalizing?
Well,
what gives them the thrill of destroying it, destroying a thing that somebody needs? Have you ever? I've gone to work sites where there's been a disgruntled worker and they destroyed the washroom facilities by plugging them all up. And it takes hours for them to get them somebody to get it fixed. And in the meantime, all you've really done is interfered with the average person who needs the washroom facilities, needs to use them, and he can't because some bitter, disgruntled employee has vandalized them to the point that they can't be used and think it's funny.
It's not in the least bit funny. And okay, so and I've told you about they invaded our offices, right? They've essentially, on the second floor, they've destroyed one stall one stall in the ladies' washroom, one stall in the gents' washroom, right? Absolutely no purpose. They absolutely destroyed the whole of the third floor ladies' washroom. Destroyed. I mean, broken toilets, clogged toilets, the works. I mean, it's just
it's a sick person.
Yeah.
It's a sick person that's doing this. And unfortunately, when you screen them come in, you can't say, are you a sick, demented person? No, you gotta take this test to make sure. Do you or do you not want to destroy or vandalize stuff? I don't know what the thrill is. I don't know what people are getting out of that. I only know that there are better people in the workplace that do kind of things like that. Yeah. On construction sites where I worked in that. But what is it that, I mean, I don't remember any washrooms being destroyed ever most of my life, but that seems to be a common thing now.
Yeah. I understand somebody breaking the door down because they couldn't get access to the washroom.
That sure, yeah, because you're going to need it. Yeah.
It's wrong, but I understand it from the perspective of the homeless person, because that gets them access to the toilet facility. That said, though, why do you need to break the toilet facility?
Well, yeah, and that's this whole thing. The city of St. Catharines has put it there. It's a good idea. It was a very expensive option, but they figured it was the best option because it's self-cleaning, it will save maintenance, and they put it in a place where they felt that those people who don't have access to washroom regularly could use it. Yeah. And now that, and I'm sure that like most of the people who are homeless or drug addicted, or those people that don't have access to the washrooms, would really, really appreciate it. Meanwhile, they go wandering into the libraries or the bus stations, and that aggravates those people that work there. But just think of it, right? I think our own public library has a lot of people coming off the street to use the washrooms and so on. But even in there, you have people destroying things. That's why they wedge the doors open, so that you can go in there and use them. But if you decide to destroy something, they can hear you doing it. So there is this. I would kind of understand it if they're ripping down the walls trying to look for copper wire or something, but to just do damage like that, who are they fighting back against? Who are they sending a message to? The only thing they're doing is making it very awkward for other people like themselves.
Yeah,
very awkward. And because those facilities will be restricted to people like them and their peers. Very selfish, very demented.
This site has been closed for 35% of the time.
Yeah, and it was if someone told me that they would do that here in Niagara Falls, put one of those up, I would say, great, finally something for the people who need it. I mean, they're walking around, they're doing their business in people's fields. Drummond Hill Cemetery is full of poop, people poop, because that's where they could go. So why, if they had places like that, okay, that would solve the problem. That would give the people a little bit of dignity too. But no, all it takes is one. Unless you have 100 homeless people and you take one demented fool that goes in there and wrecks it, and it wrecks it for everyone.
Yeah. And, I just don't understand why you need to go around vandalizing this sort of stuff. It really drives me nuts.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
I just don't. I don't know that, and I brought up the mentality of people that did that in the workplace. I knew a couple of them, and man, oh man, they're usually laid off before I could get my hands on them. I was a union guy, and I heard about one guy doing it, and the other guy was laughing that he did this, and I wanted to get my hands on that guy. I says, look what you did. This whole trailer full of washrooms, and you ruined them. You ruined every one of them in there. It's going to take the laborers a couple hours to fix them so they can work again. What did you just do to this whole crew? Right? Yeah. You took the washroom right away from them. What are they supposed to do?
Yeah.
And, I would have killed the guy, but I mean, he was laid off.
You know what that guy needed is where you were talking about Drummond Hill Cemetery and human feces. What you needed was to drag him to Drummond Hill Cemetery and stick his nose in that stuff.
No, the guy I was talking about, there was no hope for the guy. I went the extra mile with him. I lent him a couple $100 so he could pay his rent, and he paid that back, so that was good. I made sure that he got a job and stuck with it for a while. But another job, when he came in, we gave him strict instructions: don't to smoke, because it was in the refinery, right? Don't go out and try to find a place to smoke. There's only certain places you can smoke, and you got to do it. Well, the idiot after a week was caught smoking where he shouldn't, and he got thrown off the job. So I just kind of washed my hands of it. But he's the same guy that ruined the washrooms, and I gave him a piece of my mind, and I tried to go that extra mile for him, but no. I even put him on my own crew, and I had two of the worst guys on my crew. It was me and two guys, and 2 days later, the boss was crawling all over me because not as much had got done. And I said, well, actually, the boss gave me those two guys, right? And I just said, okay, where you're talking to me? Well, where's my coworkers? You got to bring it. And he says, well, you got to get them to work here. I says, no, you do. You're the boss. Bring them here. But anyway, that's something way different. Anyway, so there are people who are got this bitter, demented mind that want revenge or want to strike out. And one of the things they do is wreck washrooms, and I just don't get it.
No, I don't get it either. I've never understood. I don't understand vandalism. All right. The irony here is that I don't understand vandalism, never have. But yeah, I could understand the twisted mind of a serial killer.
Yes,
in a perverse way.
That one's hard for me. Serial killers, because there's no real motive. I just don't get it. I can see somebody killing somebody for money.
There's a twisted mind in there.
No,
yeah.
I don't get it.
Yeah, but there's a twisted mind in there that gets satisfied somehow. I don't get vandalism, never have gotten vandalism.
Well, anything last to wrap up the show? Chris Simone says, I stole a bit, but I never did vandalism.
Yeah.
So
realistically, if we go on to any of the next stories, we kind of end up with having to their longer stories. Oh, actually, no, there is a quick one. Yeah, cricket. The World Cup cricket trophy visits Niagara Falls to encourage people to watch the T20 Men's World Cup. It wants to get people to watch it, right?
Well, I pointed this out to a friend of mine once who was kind of scoffing at cricket. I says, you forget that this is one of the greatest games all over the earth. They play it in India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Australia, South Africa, just about anywhere the Brits went. They took cricket with them.
Yep.
West Indies have great teams. I don't know if they still do, but they have cricket is one of those world sports. It's not as big as soccer, but it certainly is bigger than ice hockey, and bigger than American football as far as being played in so many different places.
And it says I think it's the second or third most popular sport in the world, both in terms of being played and in terms of watching. And they joke about it, but it's true that in India and Pakistan, cricket's a religion. It's more. It actually has more support than does Hinduism or Islam
or Sikhism. Yeah, or Jainism or Buddhism. That's when I was in India. That's what that I was told almost immediately.
Yeah.
The second most prevalent religion in India is Hinduism. I said, well, what's the first? Because I thought that was the first. I said, cricket.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
And I watched the game right at the India gate in New Delhi. I watched a bunch of guys who had a pickup game, and man, did they ever play that! And they had a field there. It was just big enough for cricket. One guy could run like the wind. He should have been an Olympian. Holy cow, could he ever run? But the game went on, and they had a grand old time playing it. That's why we need cricket pitches in this city, because we got a lot of South Asians now, and they're going to want to play cricket. And when they're going to do the world, do they do the old cricket game, or do they do the shortened version?
No, this is the shortened version. This is the T20 or 2020 Men's World Cup. So I don't know when it's taking place. It's which is being co-hosted by the USA and West Indies. There you go. Right.
Yeah.
And actually, USA, you won't believe this, but the first international cricket match was actually between the USA and England.
Yeah, I believe it, because cricket was a big deal for a long time in the States until baseball come along. So if you take cricket and blend it with rounders, you got baseball basically. And what was happening is a lot of mostly rounders though, but they had cricket leagues in the United States for a long time, especially in the cities. And after the Civil War, when a lot of soldiers had playing simplified version of cricket and rounders, they came up with the game baseball. So cricket and rounders all come into play and they make baseball, and it's a relative of their sport. They just simplified everything and made it into a diamond and so on. I had a lot of fun playing baseball my whole life, and imagine kids in Britain and India had a lot of fun playing cricket when they're kids.
I used to. Our alleyway, our side alleyway was a cricket mecca. You'd basically we'd have the bin at the end would be the wicket, So if the ball hit the bin, you're out, right? And you'd bowl it down from the opposite end where the house was, and then you'd have to slug it out of the alleyway. You'd get a 4.
What's the source of the term sticky wicket? That comes from cricket, doesn't it?
It does come from cricket. I don't really know where it comes from. Interesting thing about
what does it mean? What does it mean?
I really don't know.
It won't really a wicket that won't get knocked over, or
yeah, probably a person who's playing so badly that that they deserve to be out, but they never are.
I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd be interested to know. So you're absolutely right. And you go to India. One of the things about India, you go down the village, they're playing cricket. They've got stumps marked on the wall of some house, and that's where the stumps are.
Sticky wicket, a pitch that's been drying after the rain is difficult to bat on.
There you go.
In cricket, a sticky wicket.
Yeah.
Okay. Informally, an awkward situation, a tricky or awkward situation. So the pitch that has been drying after rain and is difficult to bat on. That's
one of the key factors about cricket is you need to trim the grass very, very thin. You're talking about less, probably 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch. That is how thin it is on the wicket itself, on the actual playing surface. That playing surface, you don't walk on that playing surface or play other sports on that playing surface. It's Mecca. Now, in Australia, there's a difficulty there because, in fact, during the winter, I think what they must do is take the cricket playing surface out on a truck or something, because during the off season, the cricket off season, they play Aussie rules football.
Is the pitch called a wicket?
No, the wicket is the div. There are 2 wickets at either end of the thing. That's actually where the playing surface is the wicket.
Okay. Right. So that's the sticky wicket, meaning it's being rained on and it is muddy or something.
I understand, because if you hit the ball, normally what will happen with the ball is you hit a ball, it'll bounce and go on, right? But what will happen in the sticky wicket, it will hit the ball and just spin and just keep going along the ground. Yeah.
So that makes a whole lot of sense. I like the term, and I knew that it meant a difficult situation. I just didn't know. I knew the source was cricket, but now I know why. It's always nice to know why.
Yeah.
So sticky wicket stays in my vocabulary.
Yeah. So basically,
it's a good term.
Yeah. So if you're interested, watch the T20 Men's Cricket World Cup. It's hosted by USA and West Indies.
Yeah, a couple of these games are coming on like barnstorming, basically, and that is cricket, which seems to be interesting. And now that they do the T20s, it's a lot shorter game. The rugby matches that are being shortened up, and they're rugby 20s too, aren't
they? The rugby matches, basically, they're playing 6s now. Right, so instead of 15 people on a game, they're playing 6s, and they're on a shorter pitch. They're like a half pitch, and the idea about 6s is that in fact, there's mixed 6s as well. And there are specific rules about mixed 6s. But
how do you tackle a girl? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. But in fact, actually, some of these games, the tackles are actually done differently.
Well, but they're speeding up the game somewhat, and these games were designed to go on for days because they were the recreation of the people who could afford it. But once the average person get involved in it, even baseball now they're making comments about it being too long and they got to shorten it up. So the game is getting rugby and cricket are getting shorter, and that makes it more easily for them to be watched. But rugby's a great game. That's one game that we didn't play here. They showed us how to do it in school, primary school. But after that, there was no leagues. A little later on, I found out about them when I was too old. But I liked watching rugby. It's a great sport.
The T20 is what we used to play at school. We had 20 overs on each side. So you think about it, we'd finish school, we'd start our games at 4 o'clock, 4:30. Whenever the other side got to your game, we could play 20 overs on each side. So side A would bat, side B would bat. Right? So 20 overs on each side, and that would get through a game. You get about 100 to 150 runs. Our school typically got the 150 runs pretty well every game. We were for 5 years straight, we were the best school in the city. And one season we bowled out the other side for 36. And
none of that makes much difference to anyone here because we don't understand scoring.
Yeah, we bowled them out for 36. We put the bowlers into bat, and the bowlers got 36, 38. Right.
Well, it's almost quarter after now, so I guess we better sign off.
Yeah, we can sign that off. Yeah, that's absolutely. All right. Well, thanks everybody.
Without further ado, I bid you adieu. Finally, like I said before, the Americans are finally starting to grow a backbone. Unfortunately, it has more to do about the upcoming election and Biden's really bad figures. I'm sure that if it was the year after Biden's election, if this guy's a thing, he would have just looked the other way and let everybody be slaughtered. It's what is the warmonger. But because of the elections coming up, there might be a chance for peace, and there might be a little bit of relief for all the women and children that are getting bombed in Gaza.
I hope.
Anyway, without further ado, I bid you adieu, and I expect big things happening in towards peace because Biden's going to want to get reelected, and he can't do it with what he's doing now.